September 2015, a hospital in Cleveland runs out of heart medication. 2 patients die waiting for the drug that used to cost $80. Now it costs $1,500. The company that owns it just raised the price by 1,400% overnight. This is Michael Pearson, former McKinsey consultant, no medical background, no pharmaceutical experience. In 8 years, he built a $90 billion empire using one simple strategy: buy drugs, fire the scientists, and raise prices as high as the market will bear. Wall Street called him a genius. Patients called him something else. Over 100 drugs, price increases of 400%, 500%, even 5,000%. Heart medication, lead poisoning treatment, drugs that keep people alive, now unaffordable. And behind it all, a hidden accounting scheme that fooled every analyst on Wall Street. This is the story of Valeant Pharmaceuticals, the company that proved you can make billions by making medicine unaffordable, until the entire house of cards collapsed in 24 months. This is how Wall Street killed patients, and got away with it. Before we see how this empire collapsed, you need to understand 3 things, 3 facts that made this entire scheme possible. 3 reasons why Valeant could do what they did legally for years. Thing number 1, how pharma actually makes money. Here's the dirty secret about pharmaceutical companies. They tell you drugs are expensive because of research. Here's the truth. Most drugs are developed with government funding or at universities. Companies buy the patents and market them. In America, unlike every other developed country, there's no limit on what a company can charge for medication. None. A pill that costs $1 to make can be sold for $1,000. The FDA regulates safety, not price. Congress has explicitly prevented Medicare from negotiating drug costs. State governments can't cap prices without facing federal lawsuits. And if you need that drug to stay alive, you pay whatever they ask. This isn't a free market. This is legalized extortion. Because the alternative to paying is death. Thing number 2, the Wall Street playbook. The second thing you need to know, by 2008, Wall Street had figured out a new way to extract money from healthcare. The private equity model works like this: buy a company not to run it better, but to cut costs and boost short-term profits. Fire employees. / research and development. Sell assets, load up on debt, then either sell the company for a profit in 3 to 5 years, or watch it collapse. Either way, executives and investors get rich on the way up. This model had already gutted retail chains, manufacturing companies, and media outlets, but it hit a ceiling. You can only squeeze so much profit from a clothing store before customers stop coming. Pharmaceutical companies had something special: monopolies. Patents meant no competition for 20 years. Patients meant guaranteed demand. People don't stop buying heart medication because the price goes up. They find a way to pay, or they die. So what happens when you apply the private equity playbook to a pharmaceutical company? You get Valeant, and you get Michael Pearson. Thing number 3, who was Michael Pearson? Michael Pearson wasn't a doctor, he wasn't a scientist, he was a consultant. Duke University, McKinsey and Company, spent 20 years advising companies on how to cut costs and maximize profits. He worked on healthcare projects, but always from the financial side: how to reduce expenses, how to improve margins, how to make spreadsheets look better. In 2008, Valeant hired him as CEO. He was 48 years old, and he had a radical idea. His pitch to Wall Street went like this: pharmaceutical companies waste billions on research and development. They spend 15 to 20% of revenue trying to discover new drugs. Most of those drugs fail in clinical trials. Even successful drugs take 10 to 15 years to bring to market. It's inefficient, it's unpredictable, it's bad business. Pearson's plan: cut research and development to nearly zero, buy existing drugs instead of inventing new ones. Drugs that already have FDA approval, already have patients, already have market share, then raise prices, print money. Wall Street loved it. Finally, someone who understood that pharmaceutical companies should be run like any other business, focused on shareholder returns, not science. Analysts upgraded Valeant's stock. Investors started buying. The stock started climbing immediately. In 5 years, Valeant's stock would go from $16 to $260 per share. Pearson would become one of the highest paid CEOs in America. Billionaire hedge fund managers would call him a visionary. But here's what they didn't know. Here's what Pearson was really building. 2008. Valeant is a struggling generic drug maker. Market cap, $3 billion. Nobody on Wall Street cares. The company is based in Canada, makes forgettable medications, and has no particular competitive advantage. December 2009, Michael Pearson's first full year as CEO. Revenue, $797 million. Profit, $14 million. Stock price, $16 per share. By 2015, revenue, $10.4 billion. Profit, $2.8 billion. Market cap, $90 billion. Stock price, $260 per share. That's a 3,000% increase in company value in 6 years. One of the fastest growing pharmaceutical companies in history. Here's how he did it. Phase 1, the acquisition machine. Pearson didn't build, he bought. In 5 years, over 100 acquisitions, spending over $40 billion. The targets were specific: small pharmaceutical companies with niche drugs, drugs that patients need, drugs with no competition, drugs that treat rare diseases or conditions where alternatives don't exist. 2012, medicines for $2.6 billion, dermatology drugs, medications like Solodine for acne. Within 6 months of the acquisition, Valeant raises Solidine's price by 500%, from affordable to $600 per month. Teenagers on their parents' insurance suddenly facing massive bills. 2013, Bausch and Lomb for $8.7 billion, eye care empire, contact lens solution, eye drops, vision medication. Valeant raises prices across the product line by an average of 400%. Overnight, routine eye care becomes expensive. 2015, Salix Pharmaceuticals for $10 billion, gastrointestinal drugs, medications for IBS, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. This purchase loaded Valeant with $30 billion in debt. More on that later. The pattern after each acquisition was identical. Step 1, buy the company. Finance the purchase with debt and inflated stock. Step 2, fire 30 to 50% of employees within 90 days. Gut research and development departments, close research labs. Lay off scientists who'd spent decades developing these drugs. Step 3, raise drug prices immediately, sometimes within weeks of closing the deal. Not by 10% or 20%, by 200%, 400%, 500%. Step 4, book the savings from layoffs as profit. Report to Wall Street that the acquisition is already paying off. Pearson called it operational efficiency, cutting waste, eliminating redundancy. Wall Street called it genius. Look at the numbers. Research and development spending at Valeant was 3% of revenue. Industry average was 20%. That's $1. $7 billion per year not spent on discovering new drugs. Straight to the bottom line. Straight to executive bonuses. Straight to the stock price. Analysts on CNBC praised Pearson's discipline, his focus, his refusal to waste money on the R&D lottery. Why gamble on new drugs when you can buy proven ones and raise prices? Phase 2, the price increases nobody talks about yet. But here's what was really happening. While Pearson was on television talking about shareholder value, patients were walking into pharmacies and getting destroyed. Let me give you specific examples. Real drugs, real prices, real dates. Isuprel, heart medication, used in hospitals for patients with severe heart rhythm problems. Life or death medication, 2013 price, $215 per vial. By 2014, after Valeant acquires it, $1,346 per vial. That's a 525% increase in 1 year. Hospitals that used to stock it routinely now had to ration it. Nitropress, critical care blood pressure drug, used in ICUs, keeps patients alive during surgery and cardiac emergencies. 2013, $257.80 per vial. 2014, $880. Hospitals couldn't afford to stock it adequately. Some stopped carrying it entirely. Cupramine treats Wilson's disease, a genetic disorder where copper accumulates in your organs and kills you without treatment. Patients need it for life. Price went from affordable to $26,000 per year. For a disease that requires lifelong treatment, that's a death sentence for anyone without premium insurance. Cyprane also treats Wilson's disease. Valeant raised the price from $652 per prescription to over $21,000. Patients who'd been stable for years suddenly couldn't afford their medication. The human impact was immediate. Patients started rationing pills, taking half doses, skipping doses, stretching a 30-day supply to 60 days, hoping their bodies could handle it. Hospitals started running out of critical medications because they couldn't afford Valeant's prices. Emergency rooms had to make impossible choices about which patients got which drugs. Insurance companies were paying initially, but they passed costs to patients through higher premiums, higher deductibles, higher copays. A medication that used to cost $40 out of pocket now cost $800, $1,200, even $2,000. And nobody was stopping it. No regulator, no investigation, no congressional hearing. Because technically it wasn't illegal. Companies have the right to charge whatever they want. Patients have the right to die if they can't afford it. Phase 3, Bill Ackman and the hedge fund believers. By 2014, Valeant had attracted a new believer, Bill Ackman. Ackman runs Pershing Square Capital, one of the most prominent hedge funds on Wall Street. He's known for activist investing, taking massive stakes in companies, then pushing for changes to boost stock prices. Previous wins included Target and Wendy's. Previous disasters included JCPenney and a very public battle with Herbalife. Starting in 2014, Ackman begins buying Valeant stock. Lots of it. Millions of shares. By 2015, Pershing Square owns nearly 10% of Valeant, over $4 billion invested. And Ackman becomes Valeant's biggest cheerleader. He goes on CNBC, Bloomberg, every financial show that will have him. His message, Valeant is the pharmaceutical company of the future. This is how the industry should work. Michael Pearson is the best CEO in America. He defends the price increases. says they're necessary to fund patient assistance programs and maintain supply chains. He dismisses criticism as misunderstanding the business model. August 2015, Valeant stock hits $263 per share. Market cap, $90 billion, one of the most valuable pharmaceutical companies in the world. Michael Pearson is one of the highest paid CEOs in America. Over his tenure, he's made $183 million in total compensation. His net worth is approaching $500 million. Bill Ackman's investment is up over 100%. He's making billions on paper. At a conference, he says Valeant could be worth $400 per share. It's the peak, the absolute peak. They just don't know it yet. Because at that exact moment in a small office building in Pennsylvania, a specialty pharmacy called Philidor is about to blow the whole thing apart. September 2015, Valeant is at its peak, $90 billion company, stock at all-time high, Wall Street still cheering. But if you know where to look, cracks are forming. A patient in Ohio, a pharmacist in California, a short seller in Los Angeles. 3 people who are about to expose the biggest pharmaceutical fraud in a decade. Crack number 1, the patients who couldn't stay silent. Let me tell you about Janet, not her real name, but her story is real. For 12 years, Janet took copramine for Wilson's disease, a genetic disorder where copper builds up in your organs, your liver fails. Your brain deteriorates. Without treatment, it's fatal. In 2013, her prescription cost $800 for a 3-month supply. Expensive, but manageable with insurance. By 2015, after Valeant acquired the drug, it was $7,800 for the same 3-month supply. Same drug, same manufacturer, same pills, now owned by Valeant. Her insurance covered 70%, but her copay went from $40 to $1,200 every 3 months, $4,800 per year in copays alone. She's a high school teacher, makes $48,000 a year before taxes. Do the math, that's 10% of her gross income just on copays for one medication. She started taking half doses, stretching a 90-day supply to 180 days, hoping it would be enough. Her doctor warned her, this will kill you. The copper will build up, your liver will fail, you'll need a transplant, you might not survive. Her response, then I'll die, because I can't afford to live. Janet wasn't alone. Patients across America were facing the same impossible choice. Online forums filled with stories. Reddit threads where people shared tips on rationing medication. Facebook groups dedicated to finding Canadian pharmacies, Mexican suppliers, anything to avoid Valeant's prices. Parents of teenagers with severe acne trying to figure out how to afford Solodine. Elderly patients with eye conditions skipping doses of Valeant medications. Hospital administrators quietly discussing which Valeant drugs to stop stocking. The first media attention came slowly. A few local news stories, a few medical journals, nothing major. Valeant's response was always the same, a corporate statement about ensuring patient access and copay assistance programs. Translation, we'll help you afford the prices we just raised 500%, as if that made it better. Then in August 2015, something changes. Dr. Martin Makary, a Johns Hopkins surgeon, publishes an op-ed in Time magazine. The title, Big Pharma's Go-To Defense of Soaring Drug Prices Doesn't Add Up. He doesn't mince words. He names Valeant directly, calls them the latest poster child for drug price gouging, lists specific drugs and price increases, calls for congressional investigation. Other doctors start speaking out. Hospital administrators, pharmacists, the story is starting to get attention. But Wall Street, still cheering, Valeant stock barely moves. Crack number 2, the Philidor mystery. While patients are struggling and doctors are complaining, someone else is asking a different question. Not why are prices so high, but where is all this money going? Meet Andrew Left, Citron Research, professional short seller. He makes money betting against companies he thinks are fraudulent or overvalued. Left has been watching Valeant for months. Something doesn't add up. Valeant's revenue is growing faster than prescriptions. How? They claim it's all from price increases and acquisitions. But even accounting for that, the math is weird. Then Left finds something strange in Valeant's financial filings. A name that appears occasionally, always in footnotes, Philidor RX Services. According to Valeant's disclosures, Philidor is a specialty pharmacy partner, helps get Valeant drugs to patients, handles insurance paperwork, ships medications. But here's what's weird. Philidor is tiny, founded in 2013. Offices in Hatfield, Pennsylvania and Walnut, California. Almost no public information about it. No website worth mentioning. Barely any employees listed on LinkedIn. Yet somehow Philidor is moving massive volumes of Valeant drugs. In 2014 alone, over $400 million in Valeant products shipped to Philidor. That's more than many established pharmacy chains handle. And here's the key accounting issue. Valeant books revenue the moment drugs ship to Philidor. Standard accounting says you can't recognize revenue until the product reaches the end customer, in this case, the patient. But Valeant claims Philidor is a separate entity, so they can book revenue immediately when they ship to Philidor, even if Philidor hasn't sold the drugs to anyone yet. This is called channel stuffing. It's a way to inflate revenue artificially. Left starts digging deeper and finds something disturbing. Philidor isn't just one company. It's a network, a web of interconnected entities. R&O Pharmacy, Isolani LLC, West Wilshire Pharmacy, Patient Care America. At least 10 different companies, all shipping Valeant drugs, all allowing Valeant to book revenue immediately, and all somehow connected to Philidor. Then Left finds the smoking gun. Buried in Valeant's financial documents, Valeant has an option to buy Philidor for $100 million, essentially a guaranteed purchase price. Meaning Valeant essentially owns Philidor, controls it, directs it, but publicly claims it's independent. This isn't just channel stuffing, this is accounting fraud. Left spends weeks verifying everything, talking to pharmacists who've worked with Philidor, reviewing corporate documents, tracking addresses. He finds pharmacies operating under fake names, using addresses of closed pharmacies, employees with fake credentials. He's about to publish a report that will erase $40 billion in market value in 48 hours. But he doesn't know that yet. Crack number 3, the Shkreli effect. September 17, 2015. While Andrew Left is finishing his Valeant report, another pharmaceutical CEO is about to make headlines. Martin Shkreli, Turing Pharmaceuticals, raises the price of Daraprim, an AIDS and toxoplasmosis medication, from $13.50 to $750 per pill, overnight, a 5,000% increase. The story goes viral within hours. Shkreli's smirking face is everywhere. Twitter explodes. Cable news runs the story 24/7. The New York Times puts it on the front page. Hillary Clinton tweets about it. Bernie Sanders calls him out in a speech. The hashtag PharmaBro trends worldwide. Suddenly, pharmaceutical price gouging is the biggest story in America. And journalists start asking who else is doing this. The answer is everywhere. Dozens of companies, hundreds of drugs, but the biggest name, the most aggressive company, is Valeant. Valeant has raised prices even more than Shkreli. Hundreds of drugs, price increases of 400%, 500%, even 800%. Billions in revenue from price hikes alone. But they stayed under the radar. Corporate, professional, no social media presence, not smirking on Twitter. Now, that doesn't matter. They're in the crosshairs. September 28, 2015, Senator Bernie Sanders and Congressman Elijah Cummings send a letter to Valeant. Subject, excessive price increases for Isoprel and Nitropress. They want answers. They want testimony. They want documents. They want Michael Pearson to appear before Congress and explain why heart medication now costs $1,346 per vial. Michael Pearson releases a statement. Says prices are justified by the cost of maintaining supply chains, regulatory compliance, and patient access programs. He declines to testify, offers to send written answers instead. Wall Street barely reacts. Stock drops 2%, then recovers the next day. Investors think this is noise, a PR problem, not a business problem. They're wrong. It's October 19, 2015. Valeant stock is still at $180. Market cap, $66 billion. Bill Ackman is still defending the company on television. In 48 hours, Andrew Left is going to publish his report. October 21, 2015, 6:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Andrew Left publishes his report. The title, Could This Be the Pharmaceutical Enron? 26 pages. Every sentence is a grenade. By the time markets close that day, Valeant will lose $18 billion in value. By the time the dust settles 6 months later, Michael Pearson will be gone, the company will be under federal investigation, and $82 billion in shareholder wealth will have evaporated. This is how it happened. Phase 1, the Citron report, day 1. 6:47 a.m., the report goes live on Citron's website and is immediately picked up by financial news terminals. Left's opening is brutal. Valeant has created a network of phantom pharmacies to create phantom sales. This is not just aggressive accounting. This is fraud. He lays it all out. The evidence is devastating. Philidor is not independent. Valeant has an option to purchase it for $100 million, making it effectively a subsidiary. Revenue is being recognized before drugs reach patients, violating basic accounting principles. The network of shell pharmacies, R&O, Isolani, West Wilshire, are all controlled by Valeant through Philidor. Left includes invoices showing Valeant employees working directly for Philidor, email exchanges discussing how to structure the relationship to avoid consolidating Philidor on Valeant's financial statements. And the most damning allegation, Philidor is switching prescriptions without doctor approval. When a doctor prescribes a cheaper alternative, Philidor contacts insurance companies claiming the doctor requested a Valeant drug instead. This is insurance fraud. 9:30 a.m. markets open. Valeant stock immediately plunges from $180 per share to $160 in the first 5 minutes. Trading is halted for volatility. When trading resumes, the sell-off continues. $160 to $150. Another halt. By noon, the financial media is in a complete frenzy. CNBC has breaking news alerts. Bloomberg assigns 6 reporters to the story. The Wall Street Journal cancels other assignments to focus on Valeant. 1 p.m., Valeant releases a statement. The Citron report is erroneous and misleading. Our relationship with Philidor is properly disclosed and fully legal. We stand by our accounting practices. Markets don't care. The stock continues falling. 4 p.m. Closing bell. Valeant closes at $134.36, down 26% in one day. $17 billion in market value gone, vanished, in 6.5 hours of trading. Bill Ackman has lost over $1 billion on paper in one day. That evening, more bad news breaks. CVS announces it's cutting ties with Philidor immediately. Walgreens follows within hours. Both cite irregularities in business practices. Allegations surface that Philidor used stolen doctor credentials to fill prescriptions. Former Philidor employees start talking to journalists, anonymously at first. One tells Bloomberg, "We were told to do whatever it took to get Valeant drugs filled. If a doctor prescribed something else, we'd call insurance and say the doctor changed his mind. We had fake NPI numbers. We knew it was wrong." Phase 2, the unraveling, days 2 to 30. October 22nd, Valeant holds an emergency conference call with investors and analysts. Michael Pearson tries to calm fears. His voice is steady but strained. He insists Philidor accounts for less than 7% of revenue. The relationship is legitimate. The accounting is sound. Then an analyst asks the question, "Do you actually own Philidor?" Pearson's answer is evasive. "We have a strategic relationship with Philidor that includes an option to acquire the company." "But do you control it?" "We have significant influence, but they operate independently." The call goes poorly. Analysts aren't satisfied. The explanations sound rehearsed and defensive. Stock drops another 16% that day, now at $113. October 26th, the Wall Street Journal publishes a bombshell investigation. Valeant gave Philidor over $100 million in loans to acquire other pharmacies in the network, money used to set up the shell companies. Money that was never disclosed properly. This contradicts everything Valeant said about Philidor being independent. The journal also reveals that Philidor operated pharmacies under fake names, used addresses of closed pharmacies to maintain licenses, and had employees impersonate doctors when calling insurance companies. October 28th, Valeant admits it will have to restate its accounting for Philidor. Translation, the revenue they claimed was real wasn't. They'll have to redo their financial statements, taking back hundreds of millions in reported revenue. Stock falls to $83, down 54% from 2 weeks ago. November 2nd, the Senate Special Committee on Aging formally requests Michael Pearson testify about drug pricing. The request specifically mentions the price increases for Isaprel, Nitropres, Cupramine, and Cyprine. They want documents. They want emails. They want to know who approved these increases and why. November 5th, Valeant announces it's severing all ties with Philidor effective immediately. Philidor shuts down within 48 hours. Employees are laid off. Thousands of patient prescriptions must be transferred to other pharmacies, causing chaos. But the damage is done. More questions than answers. November 16th, Valeant delays its quarterly earnings report. When a company delays earnings, it means one thing. Something is very, very wrong. Either they can't finalize the numbers, or the numbers are so bad they need time to figure out how to present them. Stock plunges to $70. December 15th, the SEC announces a formal investigation into Valeant's accounting practices and relationship with Philidor. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York is also investigating potential criminal violations. Stock hits $64, down 70% from the August peak. Bill Ackman has lost $3 billion on his investment. Phase 3, Pearson's fall, January to March 2016. January 2016, Pearson goes on the offensive. He does interview rounds. CNBC. Bloomberg. Wall Street Journal. His message, the company is fundamentally sound. Philidor was a mistake, but it's behind us. Our drugs are still valuable. Our business model still works. But behind the scenes, everything is falling apart. Lenders are demanding debt repayment. Bond ratings are being slashed to junk status. Major investors are fleeing. The stock is in free fall. February 2016, Bill Ackman holds his own investor call. He presents a 300-slide deck arguing that Valeant is deeply undervalued, that the Philidor scandal is overblown, that the core business is strong. Markets ignore him. Stock keeps falling. Ackman is now down $4 billion on his investment, the worst bet of his career. February 29, 2016, Valeant finally releases Q4 2015 earnings. The results are catastrophic. Revenue guidance slashed by $1 billion for 2016. Debt covenant violations imminent. Multiple federal investigations ongoing. Philidor revenue being restated, reducing previously reported earnings by $350 million. The conference call is brutal. Pearson sounds exhausted, defeated. Analysts tear him apart. How did you not know about Philidor? Why should we trust your accounting now? Is the entire company a fraud? Pearson has no good answers. He keeps repeating that the company is fundamentally sound, but nobody believes him anymore. March 21st, 2016, Valeant announces Michael Pearson is taking medical leave for severe pneumonia. He will never return as CEO. Stock is at $33, down 87% from its peak, $82 billion in market value destroyed. April 2016, Joseph Papa, former CEO of Perrigo, is named the new CEO of Valeant. His first statement, "My priority is to restore credibility, pay down debt, and ensure this never happens again." But for thousands of patients, it's too late. The human cost. Remember Janet, the teacher with Wilson's disease? By 2016, she's $38,000 in medical debt. Her credit score is destroyed. She's refinanced her house to pay for medication. She's borrowed from family members who can barely afford to help. The drug that keeps her alive still costs $7,800 every 3 months. Valeant still owns it. The price never came back down. Across America, patients are still paying Valeant's prices. The company collapsed. The executives were fired. The stock crashed. But the drug prices? Most of them never came back down. From 2008 to 2016, Valeant raised prices on over 100 drugs. Average increase, 466%. Total estimated cost to patients and the insurance system, over $10 billion. Lives affected, impossible to count, but every single one was real. So what happened next? Who went to jail? Who paid the price? The answers might surprise you, or maybe they won't. The reckoning? What happened to the company? July 2018, Valeant Pharmaceuticals officially becomes Bausch Health Companies. New name, new leadership, new values. Press releases about commitment to patients and ethical business practices. But same debt, same drugs, same prices. Market cap when renamed $8 billion, down from $90 billion peak, a 91% collapse. One of the largest destructions of shareholder value in modern corporate history. To pay down the crushing $30 billion debt, the company starts selling everything. A fire sale of assets purchased for billions, now sold for pennies on the dollar. The dermatology business acquired for $2.6 billion, sold for $630 million. Inova Pharmaceuticals, sold for $930 million, a fraction of what was paid. Dendreon Cancer Treatment Unit sold for $820 million, another massive loss. By 2020, Valeant has sold off $10 billion in assets. The debt has been reduced from $30 billion to $22 billion. Still crushing. Still unpayable without years of profits. The lawsuits. Shareholder class action lawsuits are filed by investors who bought stock based on false information about Philidor and company finances. 2017, Valeant settles for $1.2 billion, paid mostly by insurance. Current shareholders, many of whom lost everything, foot the bill. 2019, Valeant settles with 44 state attorneys general over drug pricing practices. The amount, $54 million total. That's $1.2 million per state, for billions in overcharges, for thousands of patients harmed. It's barely a rounding error on Valeant's balance sheet. Insurance companies sue for overpayment and kickbacks related to the Philidor scheme. Anthem, CVS, and others settle for a total of over $300 million. Thousands of patients file class action lawsuits over unaffordable medications. Most cases settle for undisclosed amounts. Patients receive, on average, a few $100s each, nowhere near enough to cover years of inflated drug costs. The criminal cases. October 2017, federal prosecutors in Manhattan finally bring charges, not against Michael Pearson, not against top executives. Against 2 people. Gary Tanner, former CEO of Philidor, charged with wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy, accused of running the Phantom Pharmacy scheme. Andrew Davenport, former Valeant executive who worked with Philidor, charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud. June 2018, Tanner pleads guilty, sentenced to 1 year in federal prison. January 2020, Davenport goes to trial, found guilty, sentenced to 1 year of house arrest and 3 years probation. That's it, 2 mid-level executives, 1 year each. Everyone else, no charges. The injustice? What happened to Michael Pearson? April 2016, Pearson officially resigns as CEO. His severance package, $9 million in cash. Vested stock options worth approximately $11 million. Continued health benefits. He walks away with roughly $20 million, on top of the $183 million he'd already earned. No criminal charges, no civil penalties, no admission of wrongdoing. In interviews years later, Pearson expresses regret about Philidor, but maintains he did nothing illegal. He claims he was unaware of the accounting fraud, despite evidence showing he approved the acquisition option and loans. Today, Michael Pearson is retired. He lives in Southern California. His net worth is estimated at over $200 million. What happened to Bill Ackman? Ackman finally admits defeat in March 2017, selling his entire stake in Valeant at an average price of $11 per share. He'd bought in at an average of $196 per share. That's a 94% loss. Total loss on the investment, $4 billion. The worst trade in Pershing Square's history. The worst trade in Ackman's entire career. To his credit, Ackman admits he was wrong. He calls it a catastrophic failure and takes full responsibility. He apologizes to his investors who lost billions following his recommendation. But Ackman is a billionaire. Pershing Square recovers. He makes successful bets on other companies: Netflix, Chipotle, restaurant brands. By 2021, Ackman's fund has made back everything it lost on Valeant and more. His personal net worth exceeds $3 billion. He's fine. He's more than fine. What happened to the analysts? Remember all those Wall Street analysts who praised Valeant, who called Michael Pearson a genius, who recommended buying the stock at $200, $250, even $260 per share? Not one lost their job, not one faced professional consequences. Some issued mea culpas. We missed the signs. The Philidor relationship was not properly disclosed. In hindsight, the warning signs were there. But they kept their positions, kept their bonuses, moved on to the next company. What happened to the patients? This is the part that matters. This is the part nobody in finance wants to talk about. The drug prices never came back down. Cupramine still costs over $20,000 per year. Cyprine still costs over $18,000. Isaprel and Nitropress are still priced at levels that force hospitals to ration them. Bausch Health, the renamed Valeant, claims they've implemented patient assistance programs and affordability initiatives. But these programs are bureaucratic nightmares. Patients have to prove financial hardship, fill out 30-page applications, reapply every year. Many don't qualify because they make $5,000 over the income threshold. Janet, the teacher with Wilson's disease, is still paying over $1,000 per month in copays. She's 58 years old now. She can't retire because she can't afford to lose her insurance. She'll be paying Valeant's prices for the rest of her life. Multiply her story by thousands: heart patients, children with rare diseases, elderly people on fixed incomes. They're still paying. They'll always be paying. The system that enabled it. Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to admit. Valeant didn't break the system. They used the system exactly as it was designed. The legal framework. Everything Valeant did, raising prices 400%, 500%, 5,000%, was completely legal. There is no law against raising drug prices in America. The FDA regulates safety and efficacy, not affordability. Congress has explicitly prohibited Medicare from negotiating drug prices. The largest healthcare purchaser in America is legally barred from asking for discounts. State governments have tried to cap drug prices. Pharmaceutical companies sue them immediately, usually win, and the caps never take effect. The Wall Street incentive. Valeant's business model: buy companies, cut costs, raise prices, maximize short-term profits, is the standard private equity playbook applied to thousands of companies across every industry. The stock market rewards this behavior. Cut R&D spending, stock goes up. Fire employees, stock goes up. Raise prices on essential goods, stock goes up. Until it doesn't, until the fraud is exposed, until the company collapses. But by then, executives have already sold their stock, hedge funds have already taken profits, analysts have already collected bonuses. The regulatory failure. The SEC didn't investigate Valeant until after a short seller exposed them. Federal prosecutors didn't bring charges until 2 years after the collapse. Nobody at the FDA questioned why a company with 3% R&D spending was buying up dozens of essential medications. Nobody at the FTC challenged the anti-competitive effects. Congress held one hearing. One. Most representatives were more concerned with defending pharmaceutical companies than protecting patients. Why? From 2008 to 2016, the pharmaceutical industry spent over $2.5 billion on lobbying. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as intended, for everyone except patients. So what does the Valeant story actually tell us? Lesson number 1, when healthcare becomes financial engineering. Valeant didn't think of itself as a pharmaceutical company. Michael Pearson said it explicitly: we're not in the business of discovering drugs. We're in the business of creating shareholder value. That's the private equity playbook applied to healthcare. Buy assets, cut costs, maximize short-term returns, extract value. It's the same pattern we've seen in other industries. Private equity buys a retail chain, cuts staff, closes locations, loads it with debt, then either flips it for profit or lets it collapse. Investors make money either way. But when you apply that model to pharmaceutical companies, the stakes are different. When a clothing store closes, you shop somewhere else. When drug prices become unaffordable, people die. Valeant proved you can treat healthcare like any other financial asset, and for 8 years, Wall Street rewarded them for it. The stock went from $16 to $260. Pearson made $183 million. Investors made billions. This isn't unique to Valeant. Look at hospital chains bought by private equity. Staffing cuts, reduced care, higher bills. Nursing homes, same pattern. Pharmaceutical companies, same pattern. The incentive structure rewards short-term profit extraction over long-term patient care. Whether you think that's right or wrong, that's the reality of American healthcare in 2024. Lesson number 2, regulatory capture. Where were the regulators while all this was happening? The FDA doesn't regulate drug prices. Their mandate is safety and efficacy. A drug can cost $1 or $100,000. The FDA doesn't care as long as it works and doesn't kill you. The SEC didn't investigate Valeant's accounting until after a short seller exposed the Philidor scheme, 2 years after it started. Months after patients were already suffering. Congress held one hearing, and most representatives spent more time defending the pharmaceutical industry than questioning it. Why follow the money? From 2008 to 2016, the pharmaceutical industry spent over $2.5 billion on lobbying. They're one of the top 5 political donors in America. They fund campaigns on both sides of the aisle. The system isn't broken, it's working exactly as designed for everyone except patients. Lesson number 3, the accountability gap. Let's review who paid the price for Valeant's collapse. Michael Pearson walked away with over $200 million in total compensation, no criminal charges, lives in Southern California. Bill Ackman lost $4 billion on Valeant, made it all back within 4 years on other investments. Current net worth over $3 billion. Wall Street analysts who recommended buying at $260 kept their jobs, issued mea culpas, moved on to the next stock. Gary Tanner and Andrew Davenport, 1 year in prison and house arrest, respectively. Patients, still paying inflated prices, still going into debt, still rationing medication, no compensation, no relief. This is the pattern. Enron, the 2008 financial crisis, Theranos, Valeant. White-collar executives who destroy billions in value rarely face consequences proportional to the harm they cause. The system is designed to protect them. And the people who actually suffer, employees, patients, communities, get nothing but apologies and press releases about lessons learned. Valeant isn't a cautionary tale. It's a playbook. As long as the incentive structure rewards short-term profit over long-term consequences, this will happen again. It's probably happening right now. Remember Janet, the teacher with Wilson's disease? I spoke with her last month. She's 58 now, still taking Cupramine, still paying $7,800 every 3 months, still going into debt to stay alive. The 2 years she spent taking half doses, trying to stretch the medication because she couldn't afford full treatment, caused permanent liver damage. Her doctor says she'll need a transplant eventually. She probably won't be able to afford that either. She can't retire because she can't lose her insurance. She'll be paying Valeant's prices, now Bausch Health's prices, for the rest of her life. Valeant is gone. Michael Pearson is gone. The $90 billion in market value is gone. But Janet is still there, still paying. Let me leave you with some numbers. Market value destroyed, $82 billion. Patients affected by Valeant's price increases, an estimated 5 to 10 million people. Drugs with price increases over 400%, more than 100. Average price increase across all Valeant drugs, 466%. Executives criminally charged, 2. Executives who went to prison, 1 for 1 year. Michael Pearson's net worth after leaving Valeant, over $200 million. Drug prices Bausch Health lowered after the scandal, 3 out of more than 100. Total amount patients and insurers overpaid for Valeant drugs between 2008 and 2024, an estimated $15 to $20 billion. That money didn't disappear, it went somewhere. Into executive compensation, into investor returns, into Wall Street bonuses, into lobbying budgets. Out of the pockets of sick people. In 2015, while Valeant executives celebrated record profits, a woman in Ohio was rationing heart medication. In 2016, when Michael Pearson walked away with millions, a father in Texas was choosing between his daughter's treatment and losing his house. Valeant's executives made their choice. They chose profit, every single time. When it collapsed and the fraud was exposed, they walked away. But the patients are still there, still paying, still choosing, still suffering. This is what happens when healthcare becomes just another asset to extract value from, when pills are traded like stocks, when patient lives become line items on a quarterly earnings report. Michael Pearson thought he could run a pharmaceutical company like a leveraged buyout. Cut the research, fire the scientists, raise the prices, maximize returns. And for 8 years it worked. The stock soared, Wall Street cheered, billionaires called him a genius. Then it collapsed, the fraud was exposed, the company was destroyed. But here's the thing, even in collapse, even in failure, the system protected the people at the top and punished the people at the bottom. That's not a bug, that's a feature. This was Valeant Pharmaceuticals, the company that proved you can't put a price on ethics. But they tried anyway, and millions of people are still paying for it.